Hi guys, and welcome to Motion Gaming. You seem to love the Vandal gameplay commentary I did recently, so I thought I'd do a Toreador one next. So today we have an aggressive 12 kill win to check out. I will be covering the closed playtest soon, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss that. This time I chose University Garden as a spawn location. It has some armor nearby and you can get to the rooftop loot quickly. This match happened to be a high tier loot location, but this is a nice spot either way. Having already two good weapons, I started to push the nearby gunfire instead of looting more of the rooftops. The other players are already distracted between themselves, so it should be fairly easy to pick up a kill or two. I end up miscounting the number of shots needed to down this enemy, so I push in to try and finish them off, but I end up fighting the other player and chasing them instead, as the first would have to heal before pushing me. I could always come back to them afterwards. After an easy down, I notice that I'm already being pushed, so I use a wall jump to gain some distance and they run right into my line of sight, making for an easy down. I opt for shooting the enemies instead of executing them, as I was unsure if there was another player nearby, and I didn't want to get caught with my pants down. I grab the unlooted meds and head for the high ground to start planning my push towards the nearby bloodhunted player. I soon realised, however, that I was not alone and that there was another two potential kills to grab. I end up trying to keep the high ground instead of pushing down. This is probably because I'm less comfortable playing Toreador compared to Vandal, so an extra layer of caution would keep me alive, but it meant that I was only able to grab one of the two kills. Again, I forego the execution knowing that there were nearby enemies earlier, and they could be pushing me. A quick check of the available weapons, and I head for the high ground once more, hopefully to find the previously bloodhunted player. It took me a second to realise, but someone else had found the enemy that I was searching for, and I was only seconds late to the fight. A well-placed sniper shot, however, made this an easy cleanup, and at this point I could start thinking about some blood resonance buffs, having cleared the general area. I opted for the execution this time, but I was interested in the nearby shots, so I grabbed the katana and headed to the high ground to investigate. Don't forget to check that you have reloaded your weapons before pushing, as even a couple of bullets can be the difference sometimes. I sped up this part, as I was unable to see or hear any enemies, and dropping from the high ground would have been a bad idea. I end up pushing further into the zone towards Graveyard in hope of finding the winner of the previous duel. Before long, I found two enemies who were just starting a fight between them. Unfortunately for them, however, I had the height advantage and they had the limited cover to hide, meaning that it would be fairly easy for me to pick up both kills. I chose to shoot the first one to make sure I had the time to get to the second before they had the chance to self-revive and run away. This would guarantee me at least one extra blood resonance slot and both kills. I was happy with my loadout, so I grabbed the consumables and moved on. At this point I would like to grab myself some resonance buffs, but while I was healing up I noticed that nearby mortals had already been consumed, so there would be a low chance of me finding what I was looking for nearby. My plan was to move towards Terrace, where there are always loads of mortals, but I decided to take a small detour on the rooftops in case I heard any fighting in the distance. This would give me the option to forget about buffs and push in to pick up a few more kills, and also give me a view on any surrounding mortals on the way. Having said hello to all of the Twilight fans on the way, I finally arrived at Terrace, where I hope to be able to fill all of my buffs in peace. However, as I was scanning for mortals, I noticed that someone was nearby making noises, and it wouldn't be the quick buff process that I planned during my trip over here. I soon heard some gunshots, so I pushed in to find out how this dispute started, and hopefully put a permanent end to it. A quick scan for better visibility, and time to drop down. Tragically, I hadn't made it in time to save one of the players, so I thought it best to get revenge for them. After a failed attempt at blinding the enemy, and having used both of my abilities in the process, I needed to put some distance from his gas traps. I realised that they were going to attempt to melee, so I backed up as much as possible while hip firing for more movement speed. After finishing the enemy, I took to the rooftops to get away from the area, as more people would likely be incoming, having heard multiple fights nearby. Sure enough, more than one person had arrived from the surrounding area, and they had both somehow forgotten about me and started fighting each other instead. One of the players was being pushed by the gas and chose to run away, while the other had run past me without even saying hello. This made me very angry, so I decided to punish his rudeness and send him to the naughty corner in the Elysium. I then set off to search for the other player who ran from the previous combat. I thought best to do this from a different rooftop, as staying in the same spot as where you had your last fight is generally a bad idea. Having deemed myself far enough away from the danger zone, I topped up my armor and checked my consumable count, so I knew how to react to upcoming fights. Having spotted an enemy overlooking my previous fight location, I presumed this to be the enemy that I was looking for, and attempted to follow them while not getting too confident and over-engaging. Having kept the high ground, I gave myself more options on where to move next, and a better viewpoint of surrounding players. This soon came in handy as another fight broke out behind me, and seeing the possibility of picking up 2 kills instead of 1, I completely forgot about the player I was chasing and pushed aggressively in the opposite direction. Having pushed over the other side, I expected to find an almighty battle between 2 or more players. What I actually found was nothing more than some empty alleyways and a lot of rain. I was convinced the players were nearby, however, so I stuck around until they eventually found each other once more, and I was able to turn up uninvited. After hitting a fairly easy headshot, I was immediately attacked, and my push to finish the weak enemy would have to be put on hold until I could heal up and figure out which direction I should push to gain the advantage. A quick armor plate later, and with radio silence from both enemies, I decided to take a moment to grab a passive heal buff nearby, as it could probably come in useful now that the fights were lasting a little bit longer. I wasn't too worried about the car alarm, as if anything it would bring the enemies out of the hiding spots, and I could finally have a real 1v1 fight. Having spotted an enemy nearby, I repositioned on top of a disco and started poking at them, waiting for them to make a mistake or allow me to get the advantage in the fight. I didn't feel comfortable pushing over a body shot from the sniper, so I took my time as I tried to figure out where they were exactly. I decided to make a move closer to the next zone to at least give me more time and space if needed. But after hitting a headshot, I wanted to get in close and finish them off. I hadn't expected a third party to join quite as quickly, and by the time I managed to fail the small jump up to the roof and get over there to investigate, no one was to be seen. After forgetting how to aim, I decided to move into the next zone and attempt to pressure anyone who might still be lurking around in the gas. My plan, however, failed miserably, and I basically spent a couple of minutes scratching my head as to where all of those nearby players had disappeared to. I eventually gave up and went to grab some resonance buffs instead, as mortals tend not to disappear into thin air often. Even after all of that looting, there were still 5 enemies remaining, so I knew that the Endzone was going to be a good one. At this point in the game, any engagement would most likely start off a massive fight, with everyone getting involved, so I had to be more cautious on who and where I push. I was able to pick up a free kill from this player, who I figured was running away from someone and seemed a bit lost. I didn't bother going for his loot, as I already had everything I could need for the final fights. I ended up pushing in to finish off this player, but their brute abilities made it more difficult to do quickly, as they could easily traverse the rooftops and regain hit points passively. I used a syringe as a safety measure, more so for potential incoming players than for the end of this fight, but I was likely to regain the used consumable from the brute anyway, so it cost me nothing to have an extra safety net. The same logic applied to finishing them off with the katana. I would already be gaining hit points if I got shot at, which would give me a second to react and move out of sight. With only 3 enemies remaining, I headed to the roof to try and scout out where they might be before pushing in for the kills. I soon heard some gunshots nearby, and headed over while trying to get a cheeky sniper shot off. Luckily for the other players, I rolled a 1 for sniper accuracy, and with the first fight ending, I chose to follow the would-be third party, as the other would probably try and hide for some heals. I attempt to track the enemy from the rooftops, and make the mistake of dropping down, thinking that they would be hidden in a corner somewhere. I quickly realised my error, and that the enemy had climbed up from inside the gas. Fortunately for me, they'd completely forgotten that they had been shot only moments ago, and were hiding nearby. I quickly reload for the incoming last player to slow their pushdown, giving me time to finish off my kill and heal up in peace while we repositioned. To the roughly 30% of you who have watched the full video, thank you, you guys are awesome. Today's secret word to put in the comments to confuse other people is basketball. Make sure not to tell anyone why. I have a few more of these full game recordings, so let me know if you guys are enjoying the commentary and if you want to see more. Make sure to leave a like on the video, as it would really help me out with the YouTube algorithm. I just had to find the saboteur now, and the rest should be fairly easy. Generally, good players will make the first move because they are confident in their skill. so this last kill should be an easy win. Unfortunately, because the player quit, it didn't count the kill credit for me, but that would have been number 12.